The psychological effects of music on the listener's auto-dopamine production during the unique Roaring Twenties to the current time period was very unique. Kenneth Golden and Gold-E Business Communications Inc. have gone back in time to the age of the Flappers during the unique Roaring Twenties, in order to shine a light on how music influenced happenings during a very unique time period. Relating to Music Psychology Catalyst, 801. You are about to receive valuable information that will completely alter your life for the better mentally. The Roaring Twenties were a fascinating time in history, defined by its cultural explosion, economic prosperity, and the birth of many modern entertainment forms. Speakeasies were clandestine venues where people gathered to enjoy jazz music, dance, and socialize, despite prohibition laws. If Kenneth Golden and his staff at Gold-E Business Communications Inc. were to travel back in time, they'd likely find themselves captivated by how music in the 1920s, especially jazz and blues, shaped social dynamics. They could explore the rise of jazz and swing. Jazz, with its infectious rhythms and improvisational style, became the soundtrack of the decade. Icons like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Bessie Smith pioneered a genre that symbolized freedom and rebellion. Dance and culture in speakeasies. Speakeasies were melting pots where diverse groups mingled, danced the Charleston, and enjoyed live music. These venues not only broke social norms but also advanced racial integration in subtle ways. Prohibition's role in entertainment. The ban on alcohol gave rise to these underground clubs, inadvertently fostering an atmosphere of creativity and experimentation. Music's influence on behavior. This was a time when music profoundly affected how people interacted, expressed themselves, and even dressed. Think of flapper dresses and zoot suits. Music's pleasure pathway. The 1973 White Paper, formulated from extensive ongoing social psychology research by researcher Kenneth Golden, has been expanded upon to reflect diverse music of different time periods. Thinking and acting on a level congruent with a certain type of music that diverse subjects internalized had pronounced effects on various listeners' auto-dopamine production, as well as other chemical activity in various parts of the human nervous system. How does music affect your brain? This segment of research will reflect the music of the Roaring Twenties, the Flappers, and that feeling of good state of mind caused by that era's music. The psychological effects of Kenneth Golden's cross-sectional research will follow diverse timelines reflecting different musical mores and folkways. The Roaring Twenties, often referred to as the Jazz Age, was a decade of profound cultural change and exuberance. It was marked by a booming economy, technological advancements, and significant social change, all of which had a substantial impact on music, fashion, and lifestyle. The music of the Roaring Twenties. Jazz, the defining genre of the decade, jazz evolved rapidly during the 1920s. It was characterized by its improvisational style, syncopated rhythms, and vibrant energy. Key figures included Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Jelly Roll Morton. The music reflected the era's dynamic and optimistic spirit. Blues music also gained popularity, with artists like Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey bringing the genre to a wider audience. The emotional depth and storytelling in blues contrasted with the upbeat nature of jazz but were equally influential. Dance music. The Charleston, the Black Bottom, and the shimmy were some of the popular dance crazes of the time, driving people to dance halls and speakeasies. This dance culture was closely tied to the rise of jazz. Radio and phonographs. The growth of radio and phonograph technology allowed music to reach a broader audience than ever before. This helped popularize jazz and other genres beyond their regional origins. The Flappers' fashion. Flappers were emblematic of the 1920s cultural shift. They embraced a more relaxed and androgynous fashion, with knee-length skirts, bobbed hair, and less restrictive clothing compared to previous eras. Their style reflected their newfound freedom and modernity. The whole concept took on a new way of acting and expression as prohibition of alcohol sales placed controls on many free-spirited activities. Lifestyle. Flappers were known for their rebellious spirit, breaking away from traditional social norms. They were often seen in jazz clubs, dancing and socializing in ways that were previously considered inappropriate for women. Attitudes. Flappers were also known for their progressive attitudes towards sexuality and social roles, challenging conventional expectations of femininity and morality. That feeling good state of mind optimism, the Roaring Twenties were marked by a sense of optimism and possibility. The end of World War I, economic prosperity, and technological advancements contributed to a general feeling of euphoria and a belief in progress. Cultural explosion. This was also a period of great artistic and cultural innovation. The Harlem Renaissance, for example, saw a flourishing of African American culture and intellectualism, influencing art, literature, and music. Social change. The decade saw significant shifts in social norms, including the passage of the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote in the U.S. The period's emphasis on individualism and enjoyment of life fostered a sense of liberation and fun. Economic boom. The economic prosperity of the 1920s allowed many to indulge in leisure activities, including frequenting jazz clubs, attending parties, and enjoying the new consumer goods that were becoming available. In summary, the Roaring Twenties were a time of vibrant cultural change, characterized by the rise of jazz and blues, the emergence of the flapper as a cultural icon, and a widespread sense of optimism and enjoyment. Key points about this time period. History brief, 1920s Flappers. Josephine Baker. The story of an awakening. The Dancing Flappers movement. An overview of the Flappers. Dorothy Dandridge. The story you should know. The music and lifestyle of the era created a lasting legacy that continues to influence popular culture as you read. Special talent. There were big-name musicians, singers, bands, and clubs that were very popular during the Roaring Twenties. One might say that this time frame could be nicknamed the feel-good era. The Roaring Twenties was indeed a vibrant and transformative period in music and culture, and it certainly earned its reputation for high energy and excitement. This era saw the rise of jazz as a dominant genre, which was a major departure from the more restrained musical forms of the past. Key figures of the time included Louis Armstrong, whose innovative trumpet playing and distinctive voice became central to jazz music. Duke Ellington, a brilliant composer and bandleader whose orchestras played a significant role in the jazz scene. Bessie Smith, as mentioned before, known as the Empress of the Blues, whose powerful voice helped popularize blues music. As for venues, clubs like the Cotton Club in Harlem were central to the jazz scene, offering a stage for many of the era's biggest stars and contributing to the burgeoning popularity of jazz and blues. Key term, the feel-good era, captures the essence of the Roaring Twenties well, as it was a time characterized by exuberant social changes, economic prosperity, and a burgeoning cultural landscape. A new wave. Josephine Baker was a flapper who mastered her own banana dance. Yes, Josephine Baker was an iconic figure of the 1920s and a celebrated entertainer, dancer, and singer. She became one of the most famous performers in Paris during the Jazz Age. Baker's career flourished at a time when flappers, women who defied traditional gender norms by embracing new styles of dress, behavior, and independence, were redefining fashion and culture. Her banana dance was one of her signature performances. In 1926, at the Folies Bergère in Paris, Baker performed a dance while wearing a skirt made of artificial bananas. This provocative and sensual performance became symbolic of her persona and played into European fantasies of the exotic. Baker's style and performances were revolutionary, challenging racial and societal boundaries while captivating audiences with her charisma, talent, and boldness. Beyond her performance career, she became an advocate for civil rights, adopted a diverse group of children, and worked with the French resistance during World War II. She was a multifaceted individual who used her fame to break barriers and fight for equality. In effect, the Roaring 1920s, often called the Jazz Age, was a transformative era for societal norms, particularly in gender roles and self-expression. Here's how it liberated women and some men, compared to trends in today's time. 1920s liberation for women along with a fashion revolution. Flapper style. Women discarded corsets and long skirts for shorter hemlines, loose-fitting dresses, and bobbed hair. This symbolized freedom from traditional constraints. Bold use of makeup became mainstream, marking a rejection of the previous notion that cosmetics were reserved for actresses or loose women. Political and social freedom. 19th Amendment, 1920. Women gained the right to vote in the U.S., empowering them in public and political spheres. Women entered the workforce in greater numbers, holding jobs beyond domestic service, such as in offices or entertainment. Cultural rebellion. Women publicly smoked, drank alcohol, despite prohibition, and attended jazz clubs. They embraced sexual liberation, aided by the growing availability of contraception like diaphragms. For men, relaxed masculinity. Men experimented with fashion, wearing brightly colored suits and engaging in artistic subcultures. The rise of jazz introduced a more emotive, expressive outlet for men through music and dance. Breaking traditional roles. Men participated in new industries like film and advertising, which challenged traditional labor-focused masculinity. Open dialogue about emotions began to emerge in artistic circles, breaking older Stoic stereotypes. Society is more open to non-binary and transgender identities, far beyond the limited rebellion of the 1920s. Fashion trends have blurred gender lines, with men and women sharing styles like makeup, skirts, or tailored suits. Digital expression. Social media platforms allow individuals to redefine personal identity and broadcast their liberation globally. Movements like Me Too have given women and marginalized groups a voice to challenge systemic oppression. Workplace dynamics. Women hold more leadership positions and roles in STEM, politics, and corporate spheres than ever before. Men are increasingly encouraged to take paternity leave and prioritize family, breaking traditional gender expectations. Cultural inclusion. Modern trends embrace inclusivity in music, arts, and subcultures. Representation of various ethnicities, sexual orientations, and gender expressions is celebrated. 1920s context. Liberation was primarily a rebellion against Victorian-era constraints, limited to urban centers and middle, upper-class groups. Change was rapid but not as widespread or intersectional as today. Today's context. Liberation is deeply intersectional, touching race, class, and gender in ways the 1920s could not. Technology accelerates trend adoption and societal change globally, creating a more interconnected and diverse platform for expression. What remains the same? Both eras are marked by youth-driven cultural revolutions. Music remains a significant vehicle for change, with jazz shaping the 1920s and genres like hip-hop and pop influencing today. In essence, the 1920s laid the groundwork for liberation movements that continue to evolve, becoming more inclusive and far-reaching in the current era.